What is up? Local Injection is back. I know it's been a minute. Thank you so much for bearing with me. There are just so many cool records coming out this year that I had to boot up the channel again. We have an insane amount of talent in our own backyard. We've got awesome albums dropping left, right, and center, and I just had to say my piece on them all, so hope you don't mind. Today I'm reviewing Obsidian by Northlane. This is the 6th album by the Sydney metalcore quartet, and it's the first to be fully produced by the band themselves. It was released April 22, it's got a whopping 13 tracks, some of which are approaching the 6-minute mark, and 4 of which were singles, including the monumental hit Clockwork. Northlane are known for blending metalcore and electronic styles, and this album is their most diverse and experimental record yet. You've got their trademark odd time signatures and complex patterns, as well as a further development of the synths and programming seen on their last album, Alien. Personally, I think Marcus Bridge is one of the best heavy vocalists in the scene with such an impressive range, and being written in the middle of a global pandemic while the band can't tour or do what has sustained themselves for so long, a lot of the album covers the themes of identity and social anxiety. Going through the album, the opening track, Clarity, discusses a lot of the backlash that Bridge received from family members after the sensitive subject matter of the last album, Alien, particularly songs like Bloodline and Free Fall, where he's talking about his rough upbringing around his heroin-addicted parents. It happens, right? You've got these bubbling synths that set the mood for the track, and then their trademark gent riffs come in for the verse and the chorus. Despite being over 5 minutes long, I felt the Clarity actually worked really well as opening for such an expansive and personal project. It kind of really lets you settle into that new sound and really listen to what they're saying. The second track, Clockwork, was the first single of the album. Again, it has lots of synths with a catchy hook and a really awesome video if you want to check it out. Some friends and I saw them headline at Full Tilt in Brisbane recently, and I think Clockwork is going to be their set opener for years to come. Moving on, Echo Chamber, which was another single, is probably the most danceable track on the record, but it's also got the best breakdown, which is a good compromise for furthering their boundaries without kind of abandoning their roots. You've got these chopped vocal samples as well as a lot of side chaining throughout the track to really give that electronic feel, as well as one of Bridge's best vocal performances on the album, I think. The next track, Carbonized, has these almost rapped lyrics in the opening verse, which is not really something Northlane have done before. The song discusses sexual abuse and predatory behavior in the heavy scene, which is being addressed more and more, as seen in songs like Solitaire by Make Them Suffer and Vampire by Void of Vision most recently. It's obviously a very important topic and very personal to the band themselves, and the chorus is actually quite airy and light, but it works in juxtaposition with the heavy riffs. The next track, Abomination, which was another single, is lyrically quite a simple song about shame. It is one of the less memorable tracks of the record, but I will say it stands as quite a pivotal point in the album towards the more electronic and ambient styles of the latter half. I think the band definitely went for that less is more approach with this song, and it sort of lands, maybe just not the way that they were intending. Another single, Plenty, hits and just gives you an immediate stink face. This song is a fucking banger. You've got quite an unusual drum pattern with these big genty riffs and this layered technical guitar over the top. Every time this song comes on in the car, my steering wheel just gets a battering. Lyrically, it seems to be about knowing when it's time to leave and touches again on society, which is referenced quite a bit throughout this album. Moving on, Is This a Test has this almost rave-like groove with a lot of open hats and a pulsing kick. It combines messages from other songs on the album like Abomination and Obsidian, but portrays them in a more playful light. While this wouldn't be in my top 5 favorite songs from this album, it does have merit and it does work quite well in being a bridge, as I mentioned earlier, from that kind of first real heavy gripping start to the album to that more mellow and ambient second half. The next song, Zen, is another quite lengthy track about having a voice and empowering the listener to speak their truth. There's a line in the song where Bridge says, "It doesn't have to be poetry," and later says, "The message is ours to bleed." It has these sort of lulled moments of the track to really let the words sink in, which happens again with the extended outro acting as a kind of mic drop. The next song, Cipher, personally, I think could have worked better as just an instrumental. The ominous music with this chopped vocal sample throughout seems to be interesting enough without the minimal vocals that were put on the song anyway. The odd drum pattern in there kind of works this way as well, and as a result, I feel like the music kind of speaks for itself. Take it or leave it. Moving on, Nova is the softest and most ambient track on the record. As far as I'm aware, it's the only song I remember with keys on it, so that really brings that delicate element to it as well. This song showcases Bridges' area falsetto vocals and actually pairs quite nicely with the programmed beat. Enamorata, as the title suggests, is essentially an energetic love song. Lyrically, Bridge kind of discusses how the person the song is about is essentially his light. It's a good track. It was obviously quite personal, so it does make it harder to relate to, and just not one of the most memorable tracks on the record. The title track, Obsidian, is a pessimistic view of the human condition. It's got complex drums in the verse with this wailing guitar and an intense chaotic finish with Bridge growling "We're too far gone," which I feel like actually could have been a great finish to the album and maybe just keep it as an 11-track project. The closing track, Dark Solitaire, is one of the few songs on the album that has clean melodic guitar. The final lyric of the whole album is "I need help," and then these synths kind of trail off into obscurity, which doesn't really feel like it's landing the way it intended, but maybe that was the point. While it is quite a somber note to leave the record on, I suppose he is, at the end of the day, admitting that he needs support from those around him, which is a plus. I suppose what I'm getting at is that the first half of the album, maybe up until track 7 or so, is quite solid, and then when it shifts towards this more ambient and electronic style, it becomes less memorable, and I don't know if maybe it should have been brought a bit earlier into the project, but it just doesn't feel like it works. I think if you're gonna make a 13-track album and have a lot of the songs be at least 4.5 minutes, you definitely need to think of ways to maintain the listener's attention and keep the project engaging overall. The best song on the album for me, you've probably already guessed it based on my reaction earlier, is Plenty. This song is heavy, it's passionate, it just hits in all the right places. The best lyric for me would be "I'm running on a feeling, so I'm running out of time," from Clockwork. It's kind of saying that emotions are fleeting and they can't be relied on, though a lot of us rely on how we feel as a way to fuel how we live. All in all, I would give Obsidian by Northlane 7 out of 10. These guys are incredibly tight, they've got catchy hooks with important messages, it's both familiar yet refreshing as they further develop their sound. So that's it, thank you so much for watching and bearing with me this last few months. Like I said at the start, there's so much cool music dropping in the weeks to come. I can't wait to make more videos and share my opinions on them all. Listen to local music, much love, peace.